Are we live? If we are, and if you can hear us, please react in the chat so we know that you can hear us. Let me open the chat as well. Please put plus sign or whatever sign. We'll start in a couple of minutes. Let's wait for the people to come by. Oh, I see people, so many great people. Some people I even know, which is so good. Great. We're waiting for another minute and then we'll start. Hope you're having great weather. By the way, where are you from? Please tag the countries. Really interesting to see what geography we have today. I think people don't mind I'm drinking cola. It's not a problem. Okay. Graham, do you think we can start? Are you ready? Your mic is on? Let's check because
I'm here.
Okay, I can hear you. That's good. So, hello everyone and welcome. Thank you for giving us the next hour. I know how full everyone's calendar is right now. My name is Peter Koblyakov. I'm a co-founder of Raccoon Gang. I'm joined today by Graham Raddings from Instructure.
Hi, nice to meet everybody.
And the session is called Building AI-Ready Workforce, Proving Upskilling Strategies and Tools. Here's how we'll run it. I'll spend the first part on the business side of a problem, what a poor corporate training actually costs, and what a good learning program looks like. Graham then takes over and shows you how that translates into a platform using Canvas Career. We'll leave time for questions, but don't mind, please don't wait. Drop them in a chat as they come to you. And one note about why are we doing this right now. Almost every organization we talk to has the same two things happening at once. First, leadership decided that AI is a priority, and nobody is quite sure how to get several thousand employees ready for it. So the gap between decision and capability is what the hour is all about. Quick intros. Again, Peter, I lead business development at Raccoon Gang. I spend most of my time with enterprises and government clients who are working out what their learning infrastructure should look like over the next years, not just quarters. And Graham?
So I'm Graham. I'm the Director of Solutions Engineering for EMEA for Instructure, which I've done for well over 8.5, 9 years. That sees me working across our entire ecosystem of products, right the way from Canvas all the way through to Career and everything in between. And prior to that life, I was a university and college lecturer for many, many years using Canvas and other systems in the classroom at the front end. So it's a great pleasure to be here and to meet everybody.
Yeah. And yeah, a short word on who we are, so you know where the numbers are coming from. So Raccoon Gang has been doing e-learning for more than 10 years. We've delivered 200 projects for enterprises, universities, NGOs, and the platforms that we've built and created are used by more than 10 billion learners worldwide. So when I talk about what works and what doesn't, it really comes from our experience, from what we've delivered, and from a few projects that we were watching struggle. So, which brings me to what we are going to cover. Here is a plan for the next hour. First, 3 ways that we corporate training quietly damages business performance. I'll try to put numbers on each. Second is why upskilling is a financial decision rather than HR decision. If you take one thing back to the CFO from the whole conversation, I think it will be this one. Third, how to build a learning journey that reduces turnover costs. A structure you can map your own program against. And the fourth, client cases. What we built, what worked, what didn't. Then Graham closes with how Canvas Career supports upskilling and career advancement in practice.
Absolutely correct.
So let's start. Challenges. So the 3 challenges we hear about constantly, um, let, let us do them upfront because they are like not separate problems. They actually feed into each other. The first is the AI skills gap. Most employees have not had structured AI training, and most employers haven't defined what the training should even look like. That's not a failure of will, it's actually because the target keeps moving. The second is workforce underperformance. Only about a half of employers globally are engaged at work. It's not a soft metric. I will show you where it comes from in a minute. And the third thing is the falling behind the competitors. Because organizations that are closing the gap, the AI skill gap, are growing 2.5 times faster than those who aren't. That's BCG research. And how those three connected. Low engagement means people don't develop new skills. Missing skills means the organization can adopt new technology at speed. And slow adoption means competitors pull ahead. And when the company starts losing ground, then budgets tighten. And usually the training and L&D, that's the first to cut. That closes the loop and makes the first problem even worse. So let's take one at a time. Let me start with the number that gets everyone attention. I mean, almost all CEOs rank AI as the number one skill that organization needs. And only 1/3 of the team were actually prepared. So it's almost 60-point gap between what leadership wants and what the workforce can do. And the gap is hard to close because the target moves. Also, we need to mention that AI skills have a shelf life of under 2 years. Like you see when you're using Claude or ChatGPT, etc., like very different from what it was a year ago, right? So when people are what people are learned last year may be already outdated. The roles exposed to AI evolved like almost 60% faster than comparable non-AI roles a year ago. And meanwhile, the employees who demonstrated verified, which is important, verified AI skills command to almost 56% premium in their salary over the peers in the same role. So the market is already pricing this in. If you're not developing those skills internally, you'll be buying them at a premium externally. And here is a part I would like to underline. In our conversations with the real fear of employers is not that AI will replace our people. It is that we won't retrain fast enough. So those are two very different problems, and they need two different responses. The cost of not responding is measurable. Delayed products, missed revenues, lost competitiveness. Altogether, global losses from unclosed AI skills gap is whopping $5.5 trillion. And one more implication is a structural one. If AI skills turn over like in a year or two cycle, you don't have time for a multi-year training program. By the time it gets approved, designed, rolled out, the content is most probably outdated. So that is why the corporate learning and learning in general is shifting toward micro-learning, short modules, updated constantly. The second challenge is the one companies underestimate the most, because it doesn't show up as an incident, it shows up as a slow decline. Only 1/3 of employees believe their organization offers a real growth opportunities. The productivity cost of the gap, according to Gallup, again, $9 trillion, 7% of global GDP. Almost half of employees who currently work, and almost half of employees worldwide are currently watching or actively seeking for a job. The most people read the number as a turnover problem. But the problem is bigger. It's not the people who leave, it's the people who stay and work below the capacity because nobody is investing in the growth. Think about what happens to someone who develop a new skill. They want to apply it. If the company cannot show them where that leads, then the output will drop and resignation comes much later. So by the time turnover shows up your dashboard, you already be paying for month because the employee was not that productive. And there is also a recruiting cost. Strong candidates, the ones with options, avoid companies with no visible development path. Younger generation, Gen Z, ranks the learning and development above salary when choosing the employer. Around 1/3 of people are planning to leave. They name lack of development as their primary reason. And there is very common objection that if we train people, they will just leave for a competitor. And here are like two responses. First, the alternative isn't, they stay the same. They will not. Skills will erode, the output will drop, and people will quit anyway. And second is actually the math. Replacing the employee costs around 200% of their salary, 2 times. So the structured development costs roughly $5,000 per employee. Don't equal that. I'm sorry. You just need to choose either to invest 5,000 in employee or to pay the premium for replacing them. The third challenge is competitiveness. This is where the first two run into like the lost market position. Organizations that have closed the skill gap are moving faster. Same technology, same vendors, very different outcomes. The difference is where people know how to use tools, skills, AI. When we're looking at the companies, 88% of them say that they're using AI for at least one function already, but only 1% have reached what McKinsey calls AI maturity. So nearly everyone has started and almost nobody has finished. IDC projects that more than 90% of global enterprises will face the critical AI skills shortage this year. And 2 of 3 North American IT leaders say the skill gap has already hit their revenue and the product quality. That might already has. We can look at some examples. Pharma. AI is compressing drug discovery times from years to months. Teams with AI file patents earlier and reach clinical trials much sooner. Teams without, watching competitors get there first. In the industry, a few months of lead time can worth enormous amount of money. And the pattern repeats. Logistics, financial services, software, retail. The specific skills differ by industry. The training infrastructure doesn't. That's the point. It's like, we have everything in one place now. So the math goes that the training of one employee, like roughly, can be somewhere between 1 and 12,000 per year. Replacing the employee is like 2 times of the salary, and the annual turnover costs are on average 36,000. So the two first lines is where the whole argument, where year of training costs less than recruitment fee alone for replacing the same person, less than the fee you pay for just start looking. And this is because I'm showing you this because L&D budgets are usually the first thing to cut. And the reason is that training reads as an overhead while turnover reads a fact of life. This slide reframes that. Skill gap, disengagement, turnover all carry price tags, and every of them dwarfs in training investment that would have prevented. World Economic Forum expects almost 40% of core workforce skill to change by 2030. That makes continuous learning a business requirement, not a benefit. And yeah, let's break down the costs on the next slide. Again, depending on the level, depending on the area, depending on the industry, but replacing employee will cost much more than really training or retraining them. Take a number of mid-level or senior people who left your company last year, multiply this figure. It's an actual budget conversation. And notice the right-hand column, time to productivity. Even after you pay to replace someone, you carry reduced output from 6 months to 2 years. That cost never appears on recruitment invoice, but you absolutely pay in it. The next slide is a breakdown of replacement cost, very average, differs again, industry, skills level, maturity, etc. But the interesting part that the single biggest line isn't recruiting, it is lost productivity, 1/3 of the total. So the work that doesn't get done between the day someone mentally checks out and their replacement is up to speed, that's the thing that nobody accounts on. Pricing is 1/5. And why it matters? Only 1/5 of the costs is actually what your CFO and others can see in the invoice. The other 80% is spread across productivity, knowledge, team output, which means it never gets attributed to turnover at all. So it just looks like a slow quarter. And question becomes like where the employee life cycle where in the employee life cycle the problem actually starts. In our experience, it starts at a very specific point, right after onboarding. Most organizations heavily invest in first 30 to 90 days, new hire programs, onboarding, usually well designed and well funded. And then for most people, structured learning simply stops. What replaces it is reactive learning, compliance modules when they're due, occasional workshops, maybe content library subscriptions nobody logs into. And three things follow from that. Employees lose sight of what skill to build next. Nobody has told them what the required skill looks like. So development becomes a personal hobby rather than career path. Managers lose visibility into where the team gaps are growing. They found out about this when the review is in, but it's always far too late. Company lose the connection between learning and performance, which is exactly why L&D struggles to defend its budgets. Here's the number that ties back to the cost. 1 in 3 new hires begin job searching shortly after joining. Onboarding that ends without a clear growth path is one of the primary drivers. So onboarding is the entry point into learning program. It's not the program. So what does the full program should look like? This what actually in general we try to implement with our partners and clients. It has 6 connected stages. First, onboarding, then role readiness, the skills somebody actually need to perform a specific job. Then continuous learning, so development doesn't stop at the month 3, AI upskilling, right? And leadership development. Finally, internal mobility and certification, a visible path to the next role in the organization. And like 2 important principles we need to hold thing. We need to have to hold this thing together. So first, that every stage has defined objectives, tracked outcomes, and platform support. If a stage doesn't have all 3, it's not a stage, it's a good intention. Second, AI isn't a separate track on the side. There is an AI component at every stage. Literacy early on, tool training in the middle, workflow integration when you're a senior. That's the difference between an organization where a few geeks use AI and where it's a part of ecosystem. The content depends entirely on the role mix and the industry. But architecture of the learning, of corporate learning, is universal. Every organization today needs the same 6 stages. Only what's inside them is different. Before moving on, here are the 5 failure patterns we see most often. First, weak learning infrastructure. That's a technology part. Usually that means that companies are using LMS built for academic use, and they are adapted for workforce development, which is not right. It is like missing the very important parts like skills-based learning paths, HRIS integration, manager level analytics. So people who work around it, I mean, they're not adopting it right. The second, treating the onboarding as a full program. We've covered it before, and onboarding that just covers 3 months rather than employee development spent for years, right? Third, assuming that the content library equals a learning path. Very popular, because buying access to 10,000 courses doesn't create development. Without a structured tied to role requirements and career progression, people either don't start or they don't finish. Fourth, learning disconnected from a career growth. When completing a course leads to nothing visible, no certification, no role change, no conversation with a manager, then engagement collapses. So in our experience, this is the single biggest cause of low LMS utilization. And fifth important stuff is ignoring the learning analytics, because if you cannot show the skill gap closure as a business impact, then your L&D budget will be cut next downturn. Not because it isn't working, but because you don't have a means to prove it, right? So if we flip each of those points, we'll see what the good structured learning looks like. So high-performing organizations treat learning as a connected system rather than just a catalog. So role-based learning paths structured by function and seniority, refreshed every year or two for AI skills, close into 1 year. Visible progression tied to their career growth. Employees need to see the line between the course, certified skill, and the role. In our project data, that drives engagement more than content quality. People will tolerate mediocre content that leads somewhere. They won't touch the excellent content, which leads to nowhere. An LMS integrated with HR system and performance data. Without this integration, basically learning metrics are being trapped in your LMS, and nobody really takes them into account, and they will never reach the decision about the progress. Very important now, micro learning, because AI moving fast, and we're coming to skill-based learning. So short, focused, continuously updated modules, which, as we say, is the only format that keeps pace with 2-year skill cycle. And L&D reporting in business terms, again, very important strategically, because people from L&D, they report course completion, satisfaction scores. It's not the right thing to do. So retention impact, time to productivity, skill gap closure by departments. Metrics need to be delivered to your leadership team so they can act on it. That's the model. Otherwise, the budget, L&D budget, it gets squeezed. Several examples of what worked for us, for our partners and clients. So Salmon Trust, the corporate training for banking and finance, multi-tenant training platform, serving banks, government agencies. It has custom analytics and certification, very important. That's why it worked. So the challenges was the scale, separation. Many organizations use the platform, but the data and reporting made everything work fine. Cybersecurity training for enterprise, CyBeams, again, custom with the focus on making sure that the security leads could see the risk by the team they are assessing, not just completion of the courses by individuals. And micro-learning, talk coaches, basically with the help of chatbot, we were able to really connect the dots and understand what skills person is having. And the goal was really to answer this question to L&D team. Different industries, different content, 3 versions of the same requirements: structured path, measurable skills, visibility for managers. Which, yeah, bring me to the last slide on my part. Just a check-in, like the most important thing in the L&D in corporate learning right now: skill-based learning path, HRS integration, manager visibility, certification tied to career growth, and business analysts reporting that CFO will recognize. We implement learning ecosystems across industries and the corporate workforce development specifically. But now we see that Canvas Career is the place to be with, and is a technology to go with all the partners we have. So, Graham, over to you.
Thanks, Peter. So before I get into any of the product details, perhaps a quick word about who's behind it. Instructure is the company behind Canvas, which a lot of you may know from the educational world, one of the world's largest LMSs, and also behind Canvas Career, which is what I'm here to talk about. The scale is the part I'd point at. 60 million users, 180,000 organizations, 8,000 customers across 100 countries, 18 years doing one thing successfully, and that is the promotion of learning. And you'll recognize the education names that we talk about: Harvard, Stanford, Cornell, Oxford, Cambridge's, but look at the other two, the US Air Force Academy and government institutions worldwide. That's the workforce and public sector side of what we do, and it's where Canvas Career sits neatly. And here's the important part. Canvas Career isn't a feature that we've bolted onto Canvas. We spent years talking to businesses, government, and continuing education customers about exactly what they need, and importantly, what they don't. And then we built a completely separate product for it. But before I talk about what it does, perhaps I can ground us a little bit in the why. Our mission is to help learners thrive, simple. Not students, not employees, learners, because learning stopped being a phase of life and became a permanent condition of it. Everything Peter walked you through, the 2-year shelf life and AI skills, 39% of core skills changing by 2030, describes exactly that world. And we deliver it as one connected ecosystem. Teaching and learning, that's Canvas. Assessment and growth, mastery, credentials and opportunity, well, we've got credentials and parchment for that. And wrapped around that for the skills development, we've got career. Not 3 products, not the different products in a catalog. They're all parts of one journey. Learn it, prove it, and get somewhere with it. So why does that matter now more than it did 5 years ago? Because the rules of learning have changed. Convenience is the default unless quality is demonstrated. Your people compare your training against the instant answer they get from an AI chatbot. That's the competition. And that isn't another LMS. It's the open tab that sits next to it. Peter already made the case for left-hand column, skills gap widening, engagement having to be earned, leaders wanting proof. So I'm going to focus on the right-hand side, which is the actionable part. You need reskilling that moves at the same pace as the change. Development your people actually want to engage in because it's relevant, not because it's mandatory, and clear, measurable outcomes so your leaders can see it working. Those 3 are what separate the organizations pulling ahead from the ones falling behind. And that's what Canvas Career was built around. It comes down to 3 pillars. The first pillar, well, today's learners aren't looking for that checkbox compliance, are they? Petra's data, only 32% believe their organizations offer real growth opportunities. That's crazy. Personalized role-based pathways aligned to in-demand skills, not a content library. They want a path, a skill space, and AI-powered skill extraction in the tools. I mean, learners can see the skills they're building and don't just feel like they're ticking things off a list. This is the answer to the engagement problem, not better content, visible progression. But someone has to run this thing, of course, and most organizations are still on disconnected systems and spreadsheets. Peter called this out: wrong LMS, no HR integration, no manager analytics. AI-assisted course creation is what's needed. Centralized dashboards, integrations, automated reporting. The payoff isn't hours saved for their own sake. It's L&D spending time on strategy instead of operational churn. And let me show you the sharpest example. Real-time dashboards, analytics, and reporting that connects learning activity to outcomes. And Peter's 5th mistake, by the way, was ignoring analytics. Without data on skills gap closure and business impact, L&D budgets go first. This stops the argument before it starts. Retention impact, time to productivity, skill gap closure by department. That's the 3 pillars. And a quick word on why we built Canvas Career that way. There's 3 things our customers told us. They need more than a traditional LMS. Learning is expanding beyond traditional education. Skills have become the new currency. And it's worth adding here that 75% of companies now hire on skills rather than degrees. The credential is shifting. Canvas Career isn't a replacement for Canvas. Let's establish that right now. It's an extension of the ecosystem for professional learning, which raises the obvious question. Canvas Career is built on the same back-end architecture as Canvas. So it inherits the same reliability, the same security, the same scalability that 18 years and 60 million users kind of proven for us. That part is not a risk. On top of that foundation, the two genuinely do different jobs. Canvas is for credit learning, that's academic calendars, grading, degree pathways, instructor-led. Canvas Career is continuing education and industry-aligned skills, continuous enrollment, skills-focused progression, and crucially, being learner-led. The cleanest test I've heard in a single question: are terms, grades, and sections your operating system? If yes, that's Canvas. If you care about skills, roles, and proving people can do the job, that's Canvas Career. The important part is not what we took out. No semesters, no gradings, no degree pathways. If you've ever run a corporate training on an academic platform, you've probably fought one or all three of those. And the sharpest example of that difference is how enrollment works. This comes from a simple observation. In a traditional LMS, everyone is treated kind of as a student in a course, but that's not how the professional world is organized. People belong to departments, to teams, to roles, to reporting lines. So Canvas enrolls by course and cohort, the academic model. That's fine, that's great. But Canvas Career, well, that enrolls by course and team and by role and team, mirroring how your organization actually works. And that metadata can flow straight in from your HR system or your CRM. So instead of hand building a group every time someone joins, you filter by role or team and enroll hundreds of people in seconds. Your org structure does the work, not the administrators. Don't take my word for any of this, though. You can see here 3 quotes from different people that have utilized the system and gained from it in different ways. Just for the example with Kim Herb there from the instructional designer in the USA Swimming, there's so many ways that Canvas Career helps you build your content a lot easier and faster. We're a small team in a large organization that serves thousands, so having quick ways of building content is really helpful for us. The key thing there is that Canvas Career is constructed in a way that allows the AI agents and the agentic AI to help you build courses, modules, units, pages, content. And you can put in your own content and it will grab that and construct that into real meaningful learning skills and development, which is very, very powerful. So what does this actually look like as a platform? Let's take a look at who it serves. There's 4 groups, and I'll take an idea from each one. For the learner, an intuitive experience. People learn in stolen moments these days, the 15 minutes between a meeting, the commute that they might have to work, that 10-minute coffee break that they have by the coffee machine. So interruption-proof learning lets them pick up in one click exactly where they left off, and then smart recommendations surface the next relevant thing, Netflix style, based on what they've already done. If your learning doesn't answer the question they have right now, they'll go to Google instead. So this is how you win in that moment. And Canvas Career features an entire skill space designed to facilitate that exact demand. For the administrator, simpler admin and program design, enrollment automated from the HR systems, a program path hub where people browse career-aligned programs, and group management that mirrors your real structure. Less manual overhead for you, more time on the work that matters. That's important. And for efficiency, we've got the entire AI layer, the Ignite AI system running right the way through Career. Content creation that turns raw material into structured courses in a fraction of the time. The AI is your speed architect, with the human always in the loop, of course, and an AI assist, which steps in to support a learner right at the point they'd otherwise drop off. And of course, we all answer to the big leaders at the top. And of course, they get smarter tools. A leader dashboard gives a department head or a client manager a direct line of sight into their people's progress without needing lots of full administrative access and processing. That's 4 groups, 1 platform, and every one of them lines up against the journey that Peter walked us through earlier. And here's that mapping, literally. Peter's 6 stages across the top there, and onboarding right through to the internal mobility and certification under each one, the capability in our platform that runs it. Onboarding as automated enrollment, raw readiness on the program path hub, continuous learning on that interruption-proof design, AI upskilling on content creation, leadership development on smart recommendations, mobility and certification on skill space, and the leader dashboard. We've talked about, and we can then see those capabilities, and we can always check out our video when we supply that. But I won't relabor them, I won't go over them. The point here is the band across that middle there. That's Peter's entire journey running on 1 system instead of 5. That's Canvas Career across all 6 of those ideas. And it holds up whichever sector you're in, right? Canvas Career isn't built for one sector. If you're looking at healthcare or certification tracking across compliance, and maybe you've got that in there, Or if you're looking at financial services, regulatory training and continuous upskilling, this over there. If you want to just move to the next slide, please. You've also got in there manufacturing and frontline teams, safety training, reskilling, retention of those people, government and public sector, continuous training for mission critical roles, and educational services and associations where learning is the core offering. The line I'd like to leave you with is one that sort of sits under this title. The skills may differ by the industry, but the infrastructure here doesn't. And that was Peter's point from earlier. And it's why this works for a 50-person team and a 50,000-person enterprise alike. So let's bring it right back to where Peter started. Remember that Peter opened this webinar with 4 problems. On this slide is the 4 answers with Canvas Career backing it right the way through. The AI skills gap, closing skills gaps across team, falling behind competitors, aligning learning to business goals, no analytics, tracking and reporting on outcomes, weak infrastructure. We've got scaling without piling on admin. That's 4 problems we started with, 4 things a platform actually can do and has to do about them. And it's not one size fits all. It adapts to your size, your industry, and your goals. We'll put a link in the chat to book a meeting about and have a Canvas Career video, and we can sort of talk about that. And we'll put a link to a video of our platform in there so you can see that running. But with that, I'm going to hand back over to Peter for 5 questions to take us back that you might want to take back to your team.
Thanks, Graham. It was amazing. Yeah, basically, those are the questions that you might ask yourself, your L&D team, because they would structure the path like your organization to take. So first, do you have any structured L&D after 3 months, after your onboarding ends? Can employees really see the clear line between the skills and their roles or salary, etc., for like whatever step they want to take in their career? Is the LMS actually built for the corporate learning, or it is adapted to it? What data are you actually accounting on when people are trying, managers are trying to see, is there AI skill gap, or is there just any particular gap in the skills? And yeah, the AI roadmap, because those skills have a really, really narrow shelf life, and this needs to be constantly updated. And I think that we can really go to the questions if we have them.
We do. There's some in the chat there, Peter.
Okay, let me open the chat again. Closed it.
So the first question I can read out, and we can see if we can tag team this one. This is from Gulnar, and it says, do employees really need AI training or only specific roles?
I think that all employees nowadays need the AI training. I mean, it really differs on how deep the training should be, but I would want everybody who works in my company to know what data to put into ChatGPT and what data not to. So yeah, some AI literacy is needed to everyone.
Absolutely, and I agree. And I think it's also critical for a number of different reasons. Firstly, AI is not going away, and it never will. We've got it now, and it's always going to improve. It's escalating its improvements, and it's scaling, which means that if what you learned about AI 10 months ago is already out of date, essentially. So it's very important that you keep on, not necessarily keep right at the forefront of AI, but you need to be able to understand and demystify some of the myths around AI so that you can understand exactly how it is used correctly and ethically. And that's really, really important, because understanding is the basis of making sure that AI is used correctly and in the right way. And so we don't end up with nations of people making silly images when it's costing rainforests and things like that for social, and the social responsibility that comes with operating AI. So it needs to be ethical, and we also need to take that into account. And that, I think, is education. And education about AI expands across any role, and it should really begin in schools nowadays, which it probably does. But of course, we say, remember that learning is lifelong. So there is no point really when you're going to encounter AI at some stage that you should be aware of what the accountability structures are, what it really means, and the implications that it has if you use it. And I think that's critical. A second question we've got there as well that I've noticed is, what can Canvas Career do that Copilot or ChatGPT can't? That's a good question. And let me tell you something very simple. So ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, Opus, Fable, whatever models you may be utilizing, that's great. And they are amazing in what they do. And I'm not taking anything away from that. But the Ignite agent we've built for Canvas is a proper agentic AI that is tuned into our platform. So you don't have to do a lot of things. Firstly, you don't have to train this and create a skill for this. It already knows those things. It's built and talks to the platform natively. Secondly, it surfaces in the platform where you need it, and also it surfaces as a chat bot, like a chat prompting agent. You can give it multiple tasks like any agent, but the agent that you talk to with Canvas Career is plugged into the Canvas Career ecosystem. So it knows the API, it knows the data points, it knows how to extract them. Importantly, it's only allowed to have the permissions that you can control as part of Canvas Career. So instead of giving somebody completely free access to an AI and saying, go for it, and then them discovering all sorts of nuances, this is a way you can soft land the controls for an AI with your teams, departments, wider institutions, or indeed your employers, because it means that they can have an AI in a controlled space that simply talks to their learning system and just navigates through that space in that way. So what you're putting is safe power in your users' hands. And I guess what we used to call letting the steam out of the jar slowly. So you're getting people used to using the platform, but in a safe space, in a safe way, with the controls you can apply. And from a compliance point of view, in many organizations where there is a real fear that if you give all of your staff free access to the top rating LLMs, you don't know what data is coming out of your systems and going in and what systems are coming in and going out. And that raises bigger problems for compliancy. So with that, we know that in mind. We have that conversation with all of our amazing customers in our community. And that's why, although I can't honestly sit here and say that one AI is going to be more capable than another, what I can tell you is that the Ignite agent with Canvas Career is tuned into Canvas Career, and it will allow you to really do amazing things in there. And that's kind of the key. And you can do that in that really controlled manner. So that's would be my answer to that.
Great. And the last one is about the need to redesign the learning content. And I mean, it's good to have a redesigned content. It always works better if it's done right. But yeah, again, the most important thing is that employees need to know what the learning path is and where it leads them to. Again, you can have the best platform, the best content, the best everything, but if it leads to nothing, it doesn't care, right? So yes, but only if you have all those 5 things that I've talked before covered.
Absolutely correct. And from a more of a sort of a pragmatic platform point of view, remember this is fundamentally based upon Canvas. And though Canvas Career is a completely different development, of course, you don't need to redesign all of your content. The question isn't about whether you can. Of course you can. The question is whether you need to. And of course, yes, if you've got a real rationale, as Peter has just said, you might need to. But the platform is there to help you do that with the Ignite agent, with the agentic tools, and with all of those things. You can upload, if you've got a course PDF, and that's what you've always used, but you need that in a more of a digestible format, you can utilize the Canvas Career Ignite agent to help you create that content inside of the platform in a more native space. And of course, when you do that, you're then able to utilize the metrics and all of the data that comes out of a platform like Canvas Career to your advantage. And then we can start to see how the skills develop and all of that piece works. So the question is, do you need to? No. Is it a good idea to? It might be, actually. It might be, but you've got all the tools to be able to do that really easily, right?
Yeah. I was counting about like 10 or 20 questions from the audience, but I think that we have covered everything so good. So people don't have any questions.
I think that might be right, Peter.
Which is good. But anyways, the presentation you have seen, the videos, I guess, will be sent to you afterwards. They will be also available on the website and probably on some LinkedIn pages. We'll need to check with our marketing department. If you don't have any other questions, I think we can call it today. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
What I would say, one final thing from me, Peter, is if anybody here on this call wants to connect with me on LinkedIn so we can take up this discussion a little bit further about Canva's career, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me on that and network with me there as well. And of course with Peter, and we talk to each other regularly. So, one of us will pick that conversation up, and let's continue this amazing conversation into the next sort of the next platform, and the platform after that, and the platform after that.
Yeah, and really hope that it will make your organization L&D perform better. Thank you very much.